Hi, welcome to Lifestyle with me, Pam Joseph. How you doing? Hope you're fine. You're watching me at the Tottenham Studios live. It is the 22nd of June, and you are all very welcome. Now, let me tell you who's coming up on today's show. First up, I'm going to be talking to an author by the name of Colin Babb. A very, very, very interesting book he's done. It's a Caribbean. It's talking about Caribbean. In fact, Colin, let me just grab a book.
Yeah, why not?
To give the title there. They gave the crowd plenty fun. West Indian cricket and its relationship with the British resident Caribbean diaspora.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
I'm going to drink after hearing
Yeah,
it.
well, there you are. You know, a bit of a mouthful, but it is great. It's fantastic. But not only are we going to talk about the book and, you know, why he felt that he needed to give us this information, but also, just very, very recently, as we know, the Windies lost the first set. Cricket, we're going to talk about them in their present form. So, Colin, yeah, sit tight. I'm going to be speaking to you very soon. You're on the hot seat. You're on the hot seat. And next we're going to be delving into the world of sport with Joel Campbell of Global Sport in Colour and also sports correspondent for The Voice newspaper. We then speak to our very own circle artist. She goes by the name of Miss Desire. And we're going to talk about her recent trip to Germany and also her top 5 records, her personal best. Ever so often he comes on the show to talk about his work. Shola is going to be here talking to us about models of colour. Models of colour. Very interesting. And then the Lifestyle Music Corner, as always, with Little Minty. Now, Minty's brought a guest. I'm going to tell you who that guest is yet. He's got a guest with him today. So it's going to be all very interesting. Stay tuned, stay locked right here. Let me do my formal introduction to Mr. Colin Babb.
Thank you, Mr. Babb. That's very formal, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. They gave the crowd plenty fun.
Yes, the actual title of the book comes from a calypso, a famous calypso, which was recorded just after West Indies won their first match in England in 1950 at Lord's, and some of the more mature Caribbean viewers might recognise the calypso. I can sing a little ditty. I'll sing the bit that's very crucial. They gave the crowd plenty of fun. You know the rest of the line?
No.
Second
I'm not
test.
that old.
I shall continue. Second test and West Indies won. It's a very old calypso which was actually recorded and made just after the West Indies won that test match, and I just lifted the title from the lyrics there and slapped it on the front. It's a kind of,
Right.
it makes a lot of sense, really.
Yes. So we'll go into the history of it because you've actually gone back to Empire Windrush when that landed.
Yeah.
So you're actually going way back even.
Yeah, I mean, the book really sets out to explain how West Indian cricket evolved from its early beginnings in the 19th century up to where, coming to the beginning of the 20th century, it began to form a federation of a team that was basically a combination of various Caribbean territories. And the West Indies cricket team is very unusual compared to a lot of other international teams because it's a combination of different nation states, which in itself is quite unique.
Yes.
And also it's a longest lasting federal concept in the Caribbean. You could say the University of the West Indies is a federal concept. You could argue about CARICOM being a federal concept, but the West Indies cricket team is really a very long-lasting, symbol of Caribbean unity, which is why it was very important to migrants coming to this country, particularly at the start of Caribbean migration in the late 40s, which began, as you said, with the Windrush coming from Jamaica, arriving at Tilbury Docks in 1948. Yeah. 2 years later, we have the West Indies winning their first Test match in England.
At Lord's?
At Lord's, yeah. At Lord's where they saw it. And it was very important because you had this real beginning of a Caribbean presence, which started with an important victory at Lord's and the Windrush arriving. And from then, you move on to more and more Caribbean migrants coming to England for various reasons, to help the mother country, particularly after the Second World War. Also, some Caribbean people came here because they wanted to have a sense of adventure. The economic situation for a lot of people in the Caribbean wasn't great, so to come to Britain was a way of bettering yourself. And also, a lot of these countries, well, the majority of these countries were still part of the British Empire, they had British passports, so entry into Britain was quite easy,
Yes, yeah.
until the early 60s when various acts made it more difficult. So yeah, cricket became a way of a sense of pride, a sense of identity, and a sense of self-esteem, really, particularly from Caribbean people who came from various Caribbean experiences.
Yeah.
We had people from St. Lucia, from Jamaica, from Barbados, Guyana, people who didn't really know each other.
That's
If
right.
you were a Guyanese person, you probably never met a Jamaican.
That's right. That's
So
right.
you probably met your first Jamaican when you came to
Right,
England,
yeah,
which is what
yeah.
my mother always says. My
Yeah.
Guyanese mother always says she never met a Jamaican until she came to England.
That's right.
I mean, and a lot of other people from other Caribbean countries only met each other when they came here.
That's right.
So you had to overcome all those sectarianism, those divisions which existed in the Caribbean, which are transported here. And I suppose the West Indian team was one way of kind of reflecting a sense of unity.
It brought us all together,
It
didn't
brought us all
Yeah.
together, yeah. I mean, it was more important in the 50s and 60s probably than the various carnivals that existed in London and Leeds and Notting Hill and Leicester and all the other important carnivals, and the one in Bristol, which is historically quite important. The cricket team, and going to watch cricket at the Oval or Lord's or in Headingley or up Trent Bridge, it was probably a way of meeting people.
Yes.
Mike Phillips, who is a Guyanese writer and
Yes,
academic,
indeed.
talked about this with me, and he said that watching cricket in the 50s and 60s was a way of meeting your friends. Where do you meet your friends? You meet them at the Oval, you meet them at Lord's. It was a social setting.
Yeah.
So that was as important as watching the cricket.
Indeed, indeed. I love that. But, you know, the Windies were formidable back then. Now, I say it wasn't as old as what you were talking about, but I did grow up watching the Windies whenever they came to England, and they were formidable. What has happened?
Well, it's interesting you say that when they arrived, it made an impact in your lives. It was very important when the West Indies came to tour in England. It made an impact on the Caribbean community. It was headline news, and you could feel the tremors. Wow, the team is here. They're playing 5 Test matches. It was a big highlight of the summer, but no, it's not. There are many reasons for that. I've kind of tried to outline some of those reasons in the book. One of them is the fact that the team isn't doing as well as it used to be. From the 70s through to the 80s, the team was very dominant under Clive Lloyd's leadership. Now it's not. Now there are many reasons for that. Other countries have, I think India and other countries have financially become much more capable than the West Indian Cricket Board, so they're able to finance their cricket a lot better. The talent hasn't really come through compared to the great days of Richards and Lloyd, etc., Colin Croft, Michael Holding, we could go on. The talent hasn't quite come through, it hasn't quite been nurtured correctly, so it hasn't come to the fore yet, although there is a centre of excellence in Barbados, which hopefully will produce a lot better players in the future. Another reason why the team hasn't made an impact as it used to be is the fact that if you're 3rd, 4th, 5th generation Caribbean descent, in England, football and basketball, these sports are a lot more important.
Dominating it.
Yeah,
yeah,
a lot more important. I mean, your idols are, your Rio Ferdinands and your Theo Walcotts. You know, these are your idols. These are the people you look towards. Whereas, if you were of Caribbean descent or from the Caribbean in the 60s and 70s, it was Sobers, it was Kanai, it was Kalachara, it was people like that. I could go on and on. The Holdings and Colin Crofts, and Viv Richards, of course. These are very important people in your lives. And I guess, the community has changed, where if you're 3rd, 4th and 5th generation and you have Caribbean descent, that connection with the Caribbean is a lot more remote. So a pan-Caribbean team coming to represent the West Indies in England, that's not really as essential to your lives as it would have been in the 60s and 70s. The community is changing, and the relationship with West Indian cricket is changing.
It's changing.
I mean, there is a constant change, and we have to just recognise that. I've tried to outline that. It's neither good or bad. It's just a change in the way the community has developed. And also, I always say that Caribbean people, we're the great integrators. Wherever we go in the world, we always integrate. We would marry. If you go to the moon, we'd marry a Martian. If you look at the amount of Caribbean people who have married non-Caribbean people, so we've produced mixed race people of various races and nationalities, where being Caribbean is only part of what you are. You may have a Caribbean parent, but an English parent or a Scottish parent or a Turkish parent or a Nigerian parent. So being Caribbean is only part of what you are. And I think that's where the community in this country is changing.
Very much so, very much so. So let's talk a bit about yourself, Colin. BBC, I hear you hail from, or indeed you're still part and parcel That institution.
Interesting. You should mention that institution. I'll move swiftly on. BBC. The reason I mentioned the BBC is, yeah, I have worked for that institution in the past, and also I describe myself as a BBC, a British-born Caribbean
man.
Yes, a BBC man in my media working past, and also I've tried to institute a theme where. In this country, in the diaspora, maybe we could call ourselves British-born Caribbean, BBC.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to bring that out.
That's very good.
Well, actually, I stole that from a friend of mine at work who's Chinese, and she said to me, "Do you realise there's a BBC which is called the British-born Chinese?" I thought, why can't we have British-born Caribbean? That should be a really good idea. Maybe we should institute that theme.
I'm going to nick it from you.
Yeah, I nicked it from a member of the Chinese community, so I think we can sort of spread the word. But yeah, as I said to you, as I've tried to make clear in the book, that if you're British-born Caribbean, particularly in the last 5, 10, 15 years, you'll probably only have a grandparent or great-grandparent who's from the Caribbean, and you probably haven't been there. Your association with the Caribbean is maybe with...
or they'll know it too much. Your relationship with the Caribbean isn't...
Yeah, it doesn't exist. Or it's just through food or music. Or photographs or videotapes. And you probably haven't been there, and you probably won't go there. So, but having said that, I think the way our community has tapped into a sense of being Caribbean has changed. We celebrate ourselves in different ways, and I think it's quite healthy that, you know, now if you're born here and you've got a Caribbean grandparent or parents, you feel a sense of being British. And I think that's great, because if you were brought up here in the 60s and 70s, there was a bit of a reluctance to feel British because of the things that were going on in the time. You didn't feel very connected with the sense of being British because of, not just because of the racism, but a lot of people who were living in the 60s, 70s in Britain, even though they were born here, they were British or were they Caribbean. We were swinging from one side to another. We weren't sure where we wanted to be. It was kind of a mixed identity, so we weren't committed to feeling British. So that's why we rejected the sense, you know, elements of Britishness, and we wanted to attach ourselves to the Caribbean and the West Indies and the team that was winning, and a kind of a representation of black success.
Very much so, very much so. This is a Hansard publication. They've published your book. They gave the crowd plenty of fun, and we know Arif Ali very, very well.
Yes, great man.
Yes, creator of Hansard Publications.
I convinced him to publish the book, so he's a great man.
You convinced, you twisted his arm?
I twisted his arm and his leg. I used my persuasive techniques to get this book published.
You could just look at someone's eyes and give them that. You've got a dangerous look about you,
Thank you very much.
Well, let's talk about how our viewers can purchase this book and find out more about Colin Babb.
Well, thank you very much.
You could look straight to the camera.
Oh, I'm a wise-eyed open. Yeah, here's the book. You can contact Hansard Publications on www.hansard-books.com. You can also Twitter, the book's on Twitter @GaveTheCrowd. You can also email me directly, because I'm always interested to receive people's comments on what they think about the book, positive or negative, preferably positive. Email thegavethecrowd@hotmail.com. So those are the various ways you can find out more about the book, and hopefully, if this goes well, I'd write a second edition, because there's so many things that are changing all the time. I want to write about what's happening on this tour. We've already lost the series, you know, test series, and we're going to lose the one-day series. Hopefully we might win the 2020. Hopefully. But, you know.
Don't hold your breath, Colin.
Yeah, don't hold your breath.
I don't mean that horribly, you know, you Caribbean people, you cricketers, but...
The thing is, you know what would be perfect? What would have been a perfect summer for me? Because I support England at football and the West Indies at cricket. So if the West Indies had cleaned out England in the cricket series, I would have been happy. If England win the Euros, I'll be happy. So that kind of reflects my kind of sporting preferences and kind of the combination of my nationality.
And isn't that amazing? Because that's lovely. England, football, cricket, West Indies.
Yeah, that's part of what I am.
That's great, because
I'm British, I'm Caribbean, I'm Caribbean, I'm
British. That's it. We're cut in half, really, in a way.
Yeah, we're all, you know, and, you know, basically we have to face a reality that if you are of Caribbean descent, the connection with Britain is so strong.
It is.
You know, if you go to Barbados, you can see places called Yorkshire and Hastings. You know, so I mean, you know, my father's Bajan, my mother's Guyanese, so you know, I've got that kind of combination.
You're half-half.
Yeah. As you know, Guyanese and Bajans don't always see eye to eye.
You've got a blend there going on.
Yeah, I can bring that kind of relationship together.
Okay, that's excellent. I should have said as well, and maybe you should have said this, Colin, that there's a foreword in the book from Lord Bill Morris.
Wow, I didn't mention that. That's really important. Lord Bill Morris has supported this book and wrote the foreword, and I interviewed him and many other people who have contributed to this book. You know, a lot of people helped me by doing research and helped me by just sharing their experiences, and it's all there. Steve Stevenson, who is a lecturer and a community organiser, he really helped me with lots of very interesting tidbits about his experience in his connection with cricket here.
Excellent.
And Lord Bill Morris, we had a really interesting chat, and I drew some bits out of that conversation and put that in the book. And yeah, he wrote Tikani, wrote forward as well. So yeah, you know, there are a lot of good people who helped me out and expressed their opinions, not just on cricket, but on the changing nature of the Caribbean community.
And that's the importance, I think, that is stretching out of this book.
And in a sense, what is a Caribbean community? Do we have one? I mean, if you're a third, fourth generation Sanusian, would you necessarily connect with somebody from Barbados who's just arrived 2 weeks ago? You know, so because your sense of Britishness is much stronger. So you know, you know, it's a very complicated issue, but you know, it's not as straightforward.
You know,
you can't just say if you're Caribbean, we're all the same.
Yeah.
Because I like the fact that we all have these little differences and trinkets that make us slightly different. That makes our community so vibrant. I like that. I like the difference as well as the togetherness.
I think it is interesting. I think we are a very complex group, but we're very, very, very. I do think that we are together. I still believe we are, but we are complex, and we have divided within time. I know this.
Yes.
But I still think, you know, we hold it strong. We hold it very, very strong. I still go for the Windies. Windies, sort yourself out. Get it right. Yeah. We want to start seeing some wins. Yeah. Okay.
But this is it, because I do think that if the West Indies did really, really well here, I think it would energise a sense of connection, a reconnection. I don't think it'd be a huge connection. Yeah. It would be a little bit more.
But a certain amount of pride.
Yes.
As well, you know, a certain amount of pride. But Colin, we're going to have to wrap up. You know, I could talk to you all day.
Yeah, I could talk about the book all day because I'm promoting it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Can I just tell you? I know he got dragged off my chair just now. He's got a strong.
It's called confidence. Yeah.
It's called confidence.
Yeah.
Did you bat at all?
I used to play. I haven't played for a while.
Cool, blimey.
Semi-retired. If there's a club out there looking for a good player.
Excuse me?
A goodish player. With creaky knees.
Oh, Colin.
That's me.
Say hello to Arif from me, and tell
yeah.
Arif I can't wait to see him back on the show. Thank you ever so much. Colin Babb, author of They Gave the Crowd Plenty Fun. All right. He's given you all the details on all of this as well. So, good luck.
Thank you.
Second book we want to know about this, but we've got to take a break now. When we come back, we're going to keep with the sport because we've got Joe.